Hi everybody. Well, this is part 5 of a 5-part series. At least I don't think there'll be another video in this series. We'll see how it goes. There might be more revealed after this video is made, but this is certainly not the video I was expecting to make. I even had a sense of what this video would be about after, or maybe even before I made the last one. And it was essentially to sort of mark the occasion with playing a song on the guitar, just a instrumental thing that I put together, I think about 20 years ago now, but maybe a bit more, 22 years ago. Some things happened after the last video I made that really got my attention, and I was still determined to make the video until, the video with the instrumental guitar piece, until I started playing the guitar. One of the strings broke instantly, and that should have been my first sign. And then when I tried to take the string out of the, replace the string, or at least take the old string out, the end of the string that goes around that twirly thing at the end of the guitar, I don't know what it is, the nut or something, the wire was curled, and I kind of pulled it out, and went back into that position and straight into my finger, like a fish hook kind of in my finger. And so my finger was sore for a few days, and I thought maybe, well, I won't be making a video playing a song, that's for sure. And I think it was for good reason, because I think, again, I just apologize for any wind interference that might be happening. Not a lot I can do about it right now, but anyway. Yeah, a few things happened after the making of the last video. In fact, it was while I was editing the video that some things happened. So I'm going to share that with you in this video. But to make that make more sense, I'll share a backstory that connects in with this. So not 20 years ago, it would have been like 2008, I think, 2009, for about 6 months. Now I should put like a disclaimer or something that I think for some people, not a lot of people, maybe a lot of people, I don't know, this might be a bit woo-woo kind of talk, and I can appreciate that. I sometimes consider some of what I'm going to talk about to be a bit woo-woo sort of stuff, but I'm just sharing testimony. I'm sharing what happened as I recall it and as it's happened, and you know, we can all have our own interpretations of things. So anyway, with that in mind, I'll share what's happened. So yeah, about 2008, 2009, for some odd reason, and I've never been someone who's been interested in numbers, you know, interpreting numbers, noticing numbers meaning things. It's never been something that's interested me, or that I've been drawn to at all. But for about 6 months, I would wake up multiple times, like I reckon about 20 or 30 times, something along those, around that, at 4:44 in the morning. And after a couple of times, it got my attention. It's like, what's going on? I've never had this happen before, and it got my attention. And it even was to the point where I'd, like, you know, as you do, wake up, you know, just wake up in the middle of the night. You sort of just lie there for a bit, and then after a little while, you're like, oh, I wonder what the time is, and I look over, it's 4:44. And so it got my attention, and I had no idea what it meant. And the best, you know, often people would say, oh, you know, that's God waking you up and to get your attention. And anyway, I looked up what can I do with this. So I looked up, for me, you know, I had a sort of a biblical background. I was like, well, I'll look up all of the verses that start with, you know, chapter 4 verse 44 or chapter 44 verse 4, and I read them all. And the only thing that seemed to resonate with me at the time, or seemed to have any connection at the time, not even at the time, but anyway, was scripture. I think it's John 4:44, and it talks about how a prophet is not honored in his hometown. And maybe it was way after this experience that I looked that up, because it wasn't long after, during maybe, or after that 6 months or so when this happened, that I had a lot of challenges happen in my life and journey that made that scripture make sense. And so the best sort of interpretation I had around that time was maybe God was just wanting to get my attention that, you know, you're going to go through some stuff, and I'm letting you know ahead of time. And because I'm letting you know ahead of time, I'm with you. You know, you're not alone. You know, and this stuff's happening for a reason. So anyway, after that time, again, I don't look for numbers, and again, not a numbers person, a bit nervous and using numbers to sort of forecast things and all of that sort of stuff. It's not really my style at all. But fast forward to last week, after making the video last week, and I think I've said this in other videos, but in videos that these last 4 videos, that these uploads, they're an upload to God. They're me sort of saying, okay, I'm open to what you want me to do, and I'm just going to trust my instinct on that, and I'm just going to document it, which has really helped me actually. Making these videos weekly really have given me some real key markers in which to notice progress and a theme that developed. And as I said in the last video, just at the time when I'm realizing that I've got to bring myself together, the First Nations people of Australia gathered in the nation's capital to say, we as a nation need to come back together, and we need to come together in unity and love and walk together into the future in true unity. And so that happened at the same time that I was feeling this within myself, and so that was like a confirmation for me and so on. But it kind of has gone beyond that, I think, in some respects, because when I went to there's a video that I reference in the previous video, in video number 4, where the First Nations people, a particular representative, is talking about what's going on and what they're about and what they see as the future of the country and so on. And the video is like 10 or 11 hours long. It's like someone live streamed the whole day. So I had to find the part where I thought it was most relevant to show people on that video if they wanted to check it out, what I was talking about. And I found the right spot. Like, yep, that's the perfect spot to like a timestamp or a time marker. Or it wasn't in my head. It wasn't about the time. It was about where on where this person was talking about, where to put the timestamp on it, so to speak. And I found it, and I was like, that's the spot. And I looked down, and it's at 4 hours, 40 minutes, and 40 seconds long. And that got my attention straight away. Again, I don't focus on numbers, but that seemed weird to me. And maybe it was because I had been noticing some synchronicities, feeling like, from my perspective, feel like God's responding to these uploads that I'm doing to Him, and where I feel like He's leading me and so on. So maybe I just sort of had a bit more of an openness to noticing. thought, oh, that's weird. That's like, what are the chances of it falling on that time frame on a 11-hour long video? Anyway, for these video series, I've also been doing a like a different color for each thumbnail. Nothing in particularly important about the different colors, really just a different color to sort of signify a new video. So I went to my wife and I said, just thought, you know, what color do you reckon I should do for the next video? She thought about it for a few seconds and said, orange. Well, yeah, let's do orange. So I went into the like Photoshop or something like that, and I'm not sure, some people might be aware that you can have like a color wheel, and you move the cursor over the color wheel and you get all these different color variations and shades and all of that sort of stuff. And so I get it close to the orange palette, and I'm just watching the color until I feel like the color is right, and I was like, yep, that's the right color, and I take the cursor off, and I just in my editing I need to record what the code is for that particular color, so I can do some put that color on another part of the thumbnail. And the code was like six numbers and letters long, and the last 4 numbers were 444. And this was within the space of like an hour or two. I'm like, this is bizarre. This is really strange. And whereas the first time it happened in 2008, it was kind of eerie. It was kind of anxiety provoking. Sort of having this waking up at 4:44 all these mornings and not really feeling a reason for it or whatever at the time. Whereas this felt really clear. This felt like a confirmation, like God was sort of saying, I'm here. Like what you're sensing is happening in you, and what you sense is happening with the First Nations people in Canberra, and this coming together of essentially the blacks and the whites, you know, the whole country, you know, all the people of the country coming together as one people. And this man has been saying, like, one people, you know, one nation, one flag type thing, you know, like true, pure unity. And my sense of it, at least, was just in my own little way, that these 444s was God confirming the last 4 videos, and what I'm sensing I need to do in me. He's confirming it through what's happening in Canberra, and he's also confirming what's happening in Canberra, like, has his stamp of approval on it, like I'm in that, you know. At least that's my sense of it, you know, that's my interpretation of it all. And so I thought, oh, there's someone that I followed. He actually died last year. He had his YouTube channel, had some interesting information on it that I followed, and he set up this thing called I think he called it the 444 initiative or something like that, and this whole situation reminded me of it. So I looked it up. I thought, what's his take on this 444 business? And I've just got a bit of paper here. One of the things that he discovered, somehow, I'm not sure how they came up with how it connected and all of that, but just following my own sense of it and hearing, yeah, just trusting my instinct. I think just trusting my intuition and where I think it's leading. This 444 connected with this phrase, God at work in the earth through his covenant people. I'll read it again because I think I stuffed up a word. God at work in the earth through his covenant people. Now that seems to connect directly with my own personal experience and with what's happening in Canberra with the First Nations people wanting to bring the whole country together under a true united position. And because the First Nations people, just sort of a side note but not, is you know, the West is sort of connected to money and this sort of extroverted system, you know, that money supports, and all of that, corporation and business and finances and all of that sort of stuff. Whereas, let's say, and how our law connects to all of those things. The First Nations people, their law is comes from the earth. That's how they see it. And I'm hearing these people talking about, uniting together in a way. It just seems beautiful to me and wonderful. And so, just looking at my notes again. There's a big mower going on over there next to a race course. Another scripture that people doing their own research on 444 connected with was this 1 John 4 verse 18. There is no fear in love, because perfect love casts out fear, because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love. And one of the things that's become very evident to me over the last 2 years is how we seem to be, I think this has been the case for a long time, but fear is very much pushed on us as a people, as a society and so on. It's like, because fearful people are easily controlled. And I think there's been there probably has been a greater time, but particularly for our time, the last couple of years have been really been promoting us to be terrified and afraid. And I'm like, this is weird. It's like fear has become a virtue in our society, and that if we're not afraid, then there's something wrong with us. And I'm like, that is not the way, you know. And the scripture talks about it pretty clearly, that love is the way. And that's what I see happening in Canberra with the First Nations people, to come together, united as one people, in unity and love. And that's what I think God has sort of been saying to me in this last month, as I've been sort of reaching out to say, okay, God, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want to say to me as I sort of do these uploads? I feel like He's been saying the same thing to me, in the sense of, come back together in yourself and be more congruent, in the sense of being my full self in the content that I make and things like that, as opposed to dividing ideas onto these two different channels and so on and so forth. So and doing that, while it's a practical thing, you know, doing these two channels had a practical element to it. It was also had an internal reason and an internal outworking. I'm not sure if that made sense, but just it's not just practical, I think is what I'm saying, even though it was practical as well. So as I bring, in a sense, like these two channels together into one channel in a way, which will be on this channel, I'm pretty sure, although I'm not going to make any definitive statements. I think the purpose of what I've been on is this freedom to do what I want to do, be more free to express ideas, and I think on one level, doing it this way, like I was thinking about this actually last couple of days, that You know, on most of my videos on this channel, I talked about like what it means to be an INFJ, or some of the characteristics, or some of the ways INFJs think and all of that sort of thing. Whereas I think where I'm heading on this channel, sorry, the wind's probably affecting things. Let's see if I can do something about that. Whereas I think now it's more about me being myself, and part of that is being an INFJ. So it's like I've spent a number of years talking about INFJs. Now I'm just going to be one, and maybe on some level these videos will be more about like how it looks like in me, how I actually think, and how I see things, and speak kind of from that position. Now this video may not be fully representative of the content to come, but this was what happened this week, and I'm like, if I'm going to be true to sharing my process, well, this is what happened this week with the 444s and all of that. So I'm going to sort of be true to that. I'm going to share about that and see what comes of that. But maybe just to say that I think my hope is that through this process, which I think is coming to a conclusion, at least in regards to this series, this INFJ Upload Series, that that process is coming to an end, that series is coming to an end, and we're going to launch into another series. I think it'd be helpful for me to sort of pick a topic and a theme or something like that, and share a series of videos. So there's sort of a beginning and an end, and then I'll move on to something else. At least that's what I'm thinking at the moment. So I think that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to keep these videos to about 20 minutes. I know we've gone just a bit over. So yeah, I'm mindful that there's probably been some wind interference, and I'm sorry about that. But and just to say that, just to reassure people that the style change of the video and some of the things that I'm speaking to in these videos is not a reflection of my counselling or my counselling style. That the counselling aspect of things is the way it's always been and will always be. In these videos I've been sharing some of my own, I guess my own beliefs or my own processes, the way I see the world, and I, like everybody else, are entitled to them, and I guess I've just started sharing a few of them, but everyone's entitled to their own beliefs, and that's what is honoured in counselling from my perspective, is the client's beliefs and agenda and goals and so on. So please don't hear what I'm saying in these videos as a meaning that like I'm a Bible basher or a that kind of person, because that's not the way it is. Very much honour the person of the client and what their beliefs are and what they represent, and that doesn't change. I'm just sharing a little bit about what makes me tick, or what some of the ways that I tick, and some of the ways I see the world or interpret the world, or whatever you want to call that. So just to reassure people of that counselling stays the same. So I can understand maybe some of this content might have been a bit, as I said at the start, maybe woo-woo, or just a little bit out of your reference. For the most part, it's usually outside of my reference, but it came knocking on my door, and I just wanted to be what's the word, oh yeah, I guess just true to my convictions and tell you this is what happened this week. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.